This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and Android tablets. We just don't see them that often anymore, but you can count on Samsung to, well, come out with a new tablet every so often. But this one's pretty exciting because this is their high-line one that, well, competes with the iPad Air. This is the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2. 9.7-inch, pretty obviously. It's not the smaller size one. It is also available in an 8-inch size with pretty much the same specs. So it's up to you which size you like better and how much you want to spend. This one is $499, same price as an iPad. As a consolation, you do get twice the storage. You get 32 gigs of storage for the base model here. Everything about it is pretty darn nice. So I have to say it is incredibly thin. It is very light, 13.7 ounces, so significantly under a pound. Fast processor inside, of course, Samsung's own Exynos, a Super AMOLED display. It used to be we only saw those in phone-sized devices, but now we can actually get them in tablets too. So it's beautiful, it's vivid, and it's 4:3 aspect ratio. Again, like the iPads, we used to see kind of no-name brands going with the 4:3 aspect ratio, but not so much the big-name brands, and I think a lot of people actually like that aspect ratio better. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2, the second generation of Samsung's S line of tablets. This is the high-end line of tablets that competes with, well, any more expensive Android tablet and with the iPad Air. New is the 4:3 aspect ratio display here, and also it is Super AMOLED, which is pretty exciting. Not too long ago, Samsung could only make AMOLED panels in small sizes for smartphones. Now they can go all the way up to this 9.7-inch panel. By the way, this is also available as an 8-inch panel. $100 sets them apart. $499 for this bigger model, 9.7-inch, and $399 for the 8-inch model. Styling is a little bit reminiscent of the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 smartphone. You got the metal surround here and white on the edges. It's a clean look, and this is available in your choice of black, white, or gold. The gold is not a shiny, blingy gold like it is on the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge and Edge Plus. It's a subdued matte kind of color. Fingerprint Scanner embedded in the home button right there. It works well. It just works as well as it does on the Galaxy S6 and S6 Edge and Note 5 liner products. Pleasure to use, the usual Android soft buttons right there. And yes, it does bear a resemblance to the iPad Air 2, which we have right over here. And we'll put them together so you can see. Now, part of that's by virtue of the fact they are both white and they're both 4:3 aspect ratio, a ratio that it's pretty rare in the world of Android. We see some no-name makers do 4:3 aspect ratio, but not so much the big companies right here. So yeah, I can't really say Samsung copied them. They just can't help it. It's the same aspect ratio. It's a tablet. However, it is super skinny like an iPad Air, which is a good thing, and also very light. In fact, it's a couple of ounces lighter than the iPad Air, and it's a little bit thinner, just a hair thinner. Samsung worked really hard on that. 5.9 millimeter. It is absurdly thin. Now, if we look at the back, things change a whole lot because Samsung went with a nice matte plastic finish, which I have no complaints about. If it allows it to be lighter and is good looking like this is, and pretty grippy too, then that's fine with me. Again, your choice of black, white, or gold there. And obviously the iPad Air 2 has a metal back. This is the gold model, no kidding. So different look there. And where Apple goes for the curvy sides, we have the straight off sides on our Tab S2, and it looks pretty good. Stereo speakers on the bottom, our micro USB 2.0 port right there, headphone jack, and on this side we have, that's the slot for the micro SD card up to 128 gig card. So it's the kind you need a paper clip or a pokey tool to open up, and your volume and power controls are up here. It's really just a nice looking tablet, and so insanely light, 13.7 ounces. And nothing much going on at the top. Now, this is the Wi-Fi only version that we're looking at here, but carriers will also be offering LTE models, and those, of course, will cost more money. Pay extra for the LTE radio. Now, first, I really want to focus on the display. It's going to be the selling point of the tablet after you get over the incredibly thin and light and really pretty pleasing looking design. This is a gorgeous Super AMOLED display that goes way beyond sRGB for color gamut, and in fact, it covers more than Adobe RGB, which is very unusual. Now, some folks have said, well, geez, it's better than life. It's too saturated. Well, you know, Samsung gives you 5 different color settings that you can go with, including sRGB. So for those who need color accuracy, say you're a photographer and you want to proof your photos on this, just set it to the AMOLED photo mode and you'll get accurate sRGB. So here's some photos that I took just to see how nice they look. I mean, it's really a stunning looking piece. Notice the black bars over here. Now that's one thing. Android tablets are usually 16:10 aspect ratio rather than 4:3. If you're one of those people who consumes a lot of video content on your tablet, you're probably not going to be thrilled actually with 4:3 aspect ratio. Where that shines is if you're doing something like word processing, if you're looking at web pages, for example. Fantastic for that because you're not dealing with this narrow column. If you're holding it in this mode, this feels pretty natural, just like it does with the iPad. It doesn't feel like you're holding a long, skinny column. For example, here's our site in portrait mode, and it's not painful to use that way because you got that extra bit of width right there, and the screen is very sharp. 2048 by 1536 resolution, which is, again, the same as the iPad Air 2. More than adequate for very sharp-looking text. So it's nice that way. Sure, you can do it if you want in landscape mode, but it's really not a necessity unless you really need the text to be big. And this is looking at a full desktop site. Now, if we go and look at something like video, you'll see what I mean about the black bars that you're going to get with the 4:3 aspect ratio. So if you're a big-time Netflix person, YouTube, whatever it is you like to watch video, most stuff is widescreen content, TV shows even. Exciting times. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Samsung Galaxy Note 5. Yep, the 5th generation. So there are bars. Fabulous phablet with the pen, but big changes in store. Notice it looks and the speakers are firing from the bottom. They're not bad for a tablet. They're about average. They're actually about the same as the iPad Air and a lot of competing tablets. It's not super duper front-facing stereo sound, but it's adequate. The headphone jack is always an alternative for that sort of thing. So as I said, we have Android Lollipop 5.1.1. It gets an update out of the box. It started out at 5.0.2, I think it was. But anyway, first boot, it says, aha, newer version available. And it has Samsung's TouchWiz software, which is pretty lightened up. You get the handy-dandy multitasking, multi-window sort of stuff. You have Smart Stay, so if you're looking at it, it won't turn off the screen. Not a lot of intrusive junk, not a lot of tacky icons anymore. Yes, Flipboard is here if you swipe over. Some people like Flipboard, some people don't like Flipboard. Overall, it's pretty light. It doesn't impede the performance. We got a 1.9 gigahertz Exynos 5433. That's an octa-core CPU, 64-bit. It has 4 high-power cores running at 1.9 gigahertz, 4 low-power cores running at 1.3 gigahertz, and it has Mali T760 graphics. Now that's the same CPU that we saw in the Note 4 international version. Here in the US we had a Qualcomm CPU. That's the Exynos 7 Octa family. It's quite a powerful CPU. It's fast enough. I'm not bothered that it doesn't have the slightly updated version that the Galaxy S6 phone and Note 5 phone get. It's fast enough, and we'll show you a little bit of racing here so you can see what it looks like. And we're going to throw up the benchmarks with a graph and comparison so you can compare it to the Dell Venue 10 7000, a 10.5-inch competitor that also has an AMOLED display and an Intel Atom CPU around the same price, $500 as well. And we have the iPad Air in the graph, so you can see the numbers for yourself. It's a little bit better than me just rattling off those numbers for you. Samsung still includes both the old WebKit Internet web browser, probably because they can customize it if they like to, along with Google Chrome. Samsung's own App Store is on board, but there's not too much of Samsung's own software on here. They do have Milk Music, of course. They want to sell you on some stuff like that. And they bundled Microsoft apps once again. Now, don't be too surprised. Instead of Handcom Office, because Microsoft now has Office for tablet that's actually pretty good. You got Word, PowerPoint, Excel, obviously OneNote, Skype, and OneDrive. Now, OneNote is full-featured. You don't have to pay for it. Obviously, Skype is the same way for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. If you actually want to edit and create documents, you know how it works with Microsoft. You got to buy the apps or pay the Office 365 subscription to get that. But to give you an idea of what you can do for those folks who are still using these as desktop replacement kind of products or laptop replacement, it's very full-featured experience. You got track changes in here. You got all sorts of formatting. It's really not a bad experience. Of course, Samsung would love it if you buy their $149 keyboard case, which, well, works pretty well. It holds up the tablet and it gives you a functioning keyboard that's fairly ergonomic to use. So for those of you who are thinking about using this instead of a Windows laptop or tablet, well, sure, you could do that. or as a much more affordable counterpart to the 12-inch Retina MacBook. Our tablet does have a GPS with GLONASS, dual band Wi-Fi, and 802.11 AC Bluetooth 4.1 BLE as well inside. The front camera is 2.1 megapixel, and it's decent enough for video chat and, you know, a little selfie glory, but it's not going to outdo 5 megapixel front cameras that we see on today's high-end smartphones, and an 8 megapixel camera on the rear with an f1.9 lens, which is basically a faster version of the lens that was on the original Tab S. Now, I'm not going to make jokes about people who take pictures with tablets, because whatever. If you like to do that, you like to do that. So, and it is always the case that whatever is the handy camera is the one you use. It's not actually that bad a camera. It's certainly very colorful. The screen will make it look even better. And there's a fair amount of detail. If we zoom way in, you'll start to see artifacting and how some of this is actually clever JPEG rendering of an image. But I mean, that's for a tablet. That's not bad at all. And low light. Here's our cute little kitty cat stealing my office chair again. That is actually pretty good detail on his fur. It is not artifacted, it is not icky looking. It's nice, and that's with the rear camera. It can shoot up to 2K video, not 4K video, though it can play 4K video, and we got a sample video here shot at 1080p. Not particularly wide angle, this video, which is refreshing in a way. Anyway, taken with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2 8 megapixel rear camera. So for a tablet, not so bad at all. Now Samsung adds something called side sync, and they've been doing this even on their laptops back when they were selling laptops more commonly than they do now. And that's so basically you can see your Android phone on the screen here. It's sort of like a screencasting and control sort of thing. I don't know. You have to have a Samsung phone for that. And we already have Miracast, which is basically wireless display on Android, so I'm really not sure why they have Quick Connect, but that lets you send the display to a smart TV. You got to have DLNA and Wi-Fi on that smart TV. It's there if you need it. It also supports multi-users, which is pretty neat, so we're going to put it to sleep. And when we wake it up here, you see right here, we have the option of me, guest, or adding a user, and right now I have this set up to use the fingerprint scanner, which works pretty well. No Samsung Pay on this guy, though. But then again, how many of us are going to be waving our tablets at a point-of-sale system? Well, it's not all sunshine and kittens, though, exactly. To make this super skinny, super light, nearly 10-inch tablet, Samsung actually had to cut down on the amount of battery inside. And, you know, with tablets, if you've seen the insides, most of the internals are actually tablet battery. We have a 5,870 milliamp battery inside. The 8-inch model has a 4,000 milliamp battery. Now that's not disgracefully small, but it ain't exactly huge. So battery life in our tests so far has been 6.5 hours of actual screen on time. That means actually using it, doing something with it. It doesn't mean 6.5 hours straight. For me, with light use, that translates into 2 days on a charge. Now, if you're a Netflix junkie or something like that, and you're going to use this to watch a lot of movies or TV episodes, obviously 6.5 hours of screen on time is what we're talking, so you can figure out how many movies or TV shows you can watch with that. Not nearly as good as the iPad Air, and it actually falls short of last year's S2 model. It's not the end of the world, but Samsung says that they feel that most people are actually not taking these anywhere anymore. They just use them on the coffee table, so they're never far from a charger. You be the judge of that. Now, with high-end Android tablets, there really aren't that many on the market. I mentioned the Nexus 9 already, which hasn't been a huge hit with folks. Here's the Dell Venue 10 7000, specifically the 740 model, another thin, light AMOLED screen device. Display is not as bright on this guy. It's a little bit bigger, 10.5 inches. It's also a little higher resolution because it goes with the more traditional Android aspect ratio. The difference is this one has a bigger battery. You have better battery life. It's also considerably heavier, and we have the barrel hinge, not unlike some of Lenovo's Yoga tablets. Also, $500. And that's what this guy looks like. Actually, genuine plastic, except for the barrel hinge section of it, which mates with the optional $129 keyboard. So there's the other guy on the market that competes fairly directly with this, though I would still say that the Dell Venue is a little bit more business facing, and not as many people are aware of this, probably the average Best Buy shopper, for example, as they will be of Samsung tablets. Both of these do have beautiful displays, though the Samsung is a lot brighter. It's so bright you can actually see it outdoors, and that's taking it out in the Texas sun, and it's a pretty darn bright sun. Now, in doing something like playing a game, I'll take the 4:3 aspect ratio any day. It's a lot more natural, I think, than the widescreen. So, for web browsing, for your word processing, for gaming, this is pretty fun. By the way, you can see the performance here in Asphalt 8 is very good, and the screen certainly is stunning to look at, too. So, overall, I have to say, this is absolutely certainly a gorgeous tablet. Samsung has made a tablet that is every bit the Android competitor to the iPad Air. The question is, have they done anything super duper novel here? No, not really, but they've just brought you the nicest display, fast performance, incredibly thin and light, and appealing looking design. So all in all, it's a very super nice product, but it doesn't bring anything to the table we haven't seen in Android land before. So that's the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2 9.7 inch. It certainly knocks the socks off the Nexus 9. I hate to say it, sorry Nexus 9, but a lot stylish, a lot lighter, a lot more beautiful screen here. You don't get the clean Android experience. Those of you who are techno-geeky could probably root it and do something about that, but Samsung's TouchWiz software has gotten a lot more lightweight and sometimes actually even, oh my god, useful. Yeah, Android 5.1.1 Lollipop here. Good amount of storage, expandable with an SD card slot, good amount of RAM, fast CPU. Battery life, well, not the strong point though. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review and subscribe to our YouTube channel.